About a Steve Vai tape. This is how long ago it was. Probably the late '80s, early '90s. The audience is listening. I think that's the name of the album.
Yeah.
To me, I thought it was fantastic. Other people listening to it hated it, but because it's very experimental, but it's it's a little different, I could say.
Yeah.
I loved it.
Well, I find and that's the thing, doing instrumental music like I do is it's a niche market, if you want to call it that. I guess not everybody is going to be into guitar music, and particularly the more experimental it gets. You'll get certain people who will love it, like Polyphia or Aristocrats, or bands that are just like it's all about their musical ability. But it's not, I shouldn't say it's all about that, because obviously even if you're not a player, or you can still enjoy it. But that's where I really started to focus my writing on when I started this project, was to go, I have to write songs. Well, I didn't really think about it that way because it's kind of natural, but I'm writing songs that people will listen to and enjoy based on the structure and the melody and the things that people like about songs, the rhythm, whatnot, instead of going, I have to show off and have to be...
it's all about the music.
Yeah, I don't want to be just like only for guitar nerds, and I am one, but that's not the point. It's about making music.
What's the process that you go through to come up with these compositions?
Well, a lot of it is, again, like now, I guess it's changed over the years a little bit, because I'll play stuff and just come up with something and go, I got to make a little note of that on my phone, and then expand from there. Sometimes I go back when I'm trying to do something and go, I wonder what I have in there that I've forgotten about. Most of the time it kind of starts with a tempo, a rhythm, a riff. It could be a lot of things, sometimes a melody.
So it changes from one song to the next?
Yeah,
it's not always the same.
No, it's definitely not a process that's like mirrored and set in stone. And I don't know, I don't know a lot of a lot of songwriters, I should say, that do it that way, unless, I guess, again, if you're like a staff writer, or you're somebody that's writing for hits, you may have a formula that works for you. And, there's no problem with that. I can totally respect that. But for me, right now, nobody's paying my bills to write songs a certain way, so I just try to make myself happy. And I know that might sound like self-indulgent, but I think the point is, if you're making music, you should make yourself happy first, then you have one fan. Because otherwise...
You want a number one fan.
Yeah, I mean, it's the same thing with like writing a book. Why would you write a book for certain people? Like, write something that you're excited about, because that's what's going to translate. My opinion, anyway.
That's how my blog came about, because for years I wanted to write. I always wanted to be a writer, and I said, why don't I just write? And I just started the In Tune Guitar Academy, and just write about stuff I like. I love rock and roll, and I love music, and I love guitars. And
exactly, yeah. Yeah, because if you write about something that you don't care about,
like a technical writer.
I think
don't know how people do that.
No, I think if you could do it, but it would probably it wouldn't ring true. It wouldn't really translate as well.
What I thought would be where you could sell your music if you wanted to is video games, because you always hear that soundtrack in the background.
I know, yeah. And it's, I've been working on that, video games, just general licensing, everything, movies, adult movies, only partly joking. If anybody wants to use my music, go ahead, as long as I get paid. Honestly, it's funny though, the way things are now. It used to be, there was a period where, you're a sellout if you have your music in movies or something. But now people, that's where you make your money. And I don't mean get rich. I mean just make a living.
Well, look at Bohemian Rhapsody. It's one of the most popular movies, and the Rocket Man. And, now the new Elvis Presley movie. People are into nostalgia. They love that.
Well, that too. Yeah. Did you see the Elvis movie?
No, I haven't. I saw Rocket Man. I saw Bohemian Rhapsody. I loved them both.
Yeah, they were both good, and both very different styles.
Oh yeah, definitely.
The Elvis movie. It's weird because I saw people criticizing it before the movie came out. I don't care what. I went and saw it, and yeah, I loved it. And it was 2 hours and 39 minutes of sitting there, not running to the washroom. That's impressive. And you're sitting there drinking and
empty
eating
cup.
popcorn.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I know. I'm going 2 hours and 39 minutes of sitting here. That's better. But it was compelling. I thought it was great. The acting was great. The guy who played Elvis did a great job. And,
The last song or that type of movie that I saw was I was on a plane coming back from Europe, and I saw the Respect, which is a story of Aretha Franklin, which is fantastic. I love that movie.
I never saw that.
Yeah.
When did that come out?
A couple of years ago, and it stars Jennifer Hudson.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
And she's
I
such
do
a good
remember.
singer.
Now that you said that.
The funny
yeah.
thing is that she plays an alcoholic because Aretha Franklin, I didn't know this, was an alcoholic according to the movie.
Yeah.
But I read recently that Jennifer Hudson has never touched a drop of alcohol in her life, which
No
I
way.
find amazing because
That
I
is-
certainly love my beer. So.
Yeah. Well, then that's funny because I'm the same thing. I'll have a drink or whatever, but not when I was a kid. Before the cops are going to come get me now, but before I was of age to drink, that's when I did my drinking, like most kids in high school or whatever, right?
Yeah.
And then we got that first tour that I was talking about. It was 2.5 months on the road, first time really being away from home. Like that was that was an education. But I also knew we were playing 6 nights a week, and that was my own rule. And the band we were all pretty anti-drugs and anti-getting hammered. Like we were very serious about the music and putting on a good show.
That's what broke up Kiss, right? It was
really.
Ace Frehley that was
And Peter Criss were both kind of like into too much excess and living the rock star
Gene
life.
Simmons is totally against that. He's like all business.
Yeah, and if you're messing up, and not just messing up on stage, but if you're unreliable and hard to be around, and yeah, so that's when I quit drinking completely at that point, and I've never done any, illegal drugs or recreational drugs, I guess you could say. And a lot of people don't believe that.
Now you don't drink at all?
No, I do drink now, but I don't drink a lot.
Okay.
Like,
just
never
enjoy the odd drink.
Yeah, that's it. And
this is one thing that really bothers me about the image of rock bands, because everybody thinks they're all druggies, they're all alcoholics. I mean, there's some famous examples, John Bonham, Ozzy Osbourne, Jim Morrison, Janis Joplin, but 90% of them weren't.
Yeah.
I mean,
and even with
they don't
the image,
last this long if you're a total drug addict.
Yeah. Well, it's like Twisted Sister, right? Their whole, like when they were coming up, they spent a lot of time in the bar scene, and their whole thing was like getting people party, drinking and stuff, and they were all like completely no alcohol, no drugs, nothing. And even Kiss, we go back and listen to Paul Stanley's big rap before Cold Gin, and it's like, I don't know, now I listen to him and go, yeah, he doesn't sound like somebody who drinks, but still, the whole thing was just an audience thing, an image, right? Mm-hmm. And I often wondered, I don't know about Motley Crue, but I often wondered, even back in those days, I mean, the music was not extremely complicated to play, but the show, I mean, if you went on stage and you were as messed up as they
pretended to be,
claimed to be, you would get blown up by some pyro if you were in the wrong
fall
place.
Off the stage.
Yeah, you need to know where you're going to be at all times, or you're.
That's one thing you don't realize. If you never played on stage, the lights are hitting you in the eyes,
and
everything else is dark. You are really lost if you
Strobe lights,
go too far off. It's easy. That's why.
And it
people
happens.
fall off the stage.
Still,
I mean, I hear about it. And people laugh at it, but it's not funny at all. That's the reason why they got lights blasting at them, noise. It's a very disorienting thing.
Yeah, you fall off the stage, and that's usually when you break a bunch of ribs.
Oh,
that's what and I'm amazed that I haven't done a face plant yet. It's there's still time. There's still time.
Okay.
But yeah. But
so your cover band, are you still in the cover band?
Yeah, we have a couple of gigs this month.
October,
actually.
Right?
Well, no, the cover band has gigs this August, so this month.
Okay.
And it's really kind of fun because we never practice ever.
Oh, okay.
We just show up and play. It's very efficient. I don't the height of laziness, I don't even bring an amp. I just bring like a Boss, what do you call it? Like it's a pedal board,
Okay.
DI. And while it may seem lazy, it also is pretty effective in controlling the sound.
Okay, so you
Because
plug straight into the board? You don't?
Yep.
Okay. That's,
Yep.
well, I mean, that's pretty common.
Yeah.
Geddy Lee did that for years.
Yeah, and I was really against. I was very resistant to the idea because I'm like, no, I need to bring my amp, you know. And but when you're playing in a little bar, honestly, the only person that notices is you. If you can get a decent sound and it's not horrible, and nowadays the processing is so good. Like the multi-effects units, it can do way more than I have the time or capability to figure out how to program. Like it's.
I just love the old bands that had stacks of speakers all over the stage.
Yeah.
I bet you 90% of them weren't even plugged in. It was just for show.
We used to
just
do.
need one amp.
Yeah, we used to drag around those big, huge PAs and like. You know, guitar racks for processing and all that. That's why I'm going old school again. I just gave up on the racks, gave up on the digital stuff as much as possible for live. When I'm recording, it's a combination, like a hybrid of both. And I'll probably more plugins than live.
So tell me about your pedal boards.
So yeah, the chorus is that Boss, like old school chorus. It's not a replica of like an 80s one. It actually is one. So what else do we got going on? Oh, the noise gate. I'm not even sure if it does anything. There's a compressor which mostly helps with the clean channel. Kind of. I always have a problem with the clean channel with all of like everything ringing kind of even, and so that helps with that. The old.
And we talked about the Fender pedal.
Yep. I use it sparingly. I use most of them sparingly. I'm not a real tap dancer. I don't like a lot of stuff. This, just the carbon copy delay, it's barely on. Right now, I have everything plugged in the front, which is not ideal for stuff like that because it gets a little messy, so I don't have it on very much.
And you have a tuner, of course.
Tuner, yeah, most important piece of gear.
And then
Mojo
what's
is...
a Mojo?
It's like an overdrive, works as a boost, and this one has the ability to color things. It's got a bass knob and like that. That's the one. It's not the exact one that Paul Gilbert uses. He uses one that's like custom for him, but it's the same. He based his off of that.
And this is just a foot switch for clean and dirty channel?
Clean, dirty, and reverb, so I have another reverb. And of course the wah, which is a wah. I don't use a lot, but yeah, it's very effective in places, but I'm not somebody who likes to mess around with it very much.
And like the Edge, the U2, I don't know how that guy concentrates.
How he operates it, yeah.
And same with the guitar for the Police, Stuart. No, not Stuart Copeland.
Andy
Summers.
Summers,
There you
yeah.
go.
Yeah, great player, and those effects,
So many pedals.
Yeah, and I often think I have a sort of a cross, like a split personality there, where I love effects, and if I look at them, I go, oh man, I want that, and I like the way they look, and I want to have millions of them, but yet I tend to buy more than I always take them off, go, I have no use for this, because when I'm playing live, I kind of want to just rock, you know, I want to play. Do you know Jared James Nichols? Is that his name, Jared James?
No.
Okay, you got to check this guy out. He's he plays with his fingers, doesn't use a pick. A lot of players are like that these days. It's cool. And I saw him opening for John 5, and now he sings though, so he's not just instrumental. But he plugged into his Black Star amps, I think, and he just plugged right in, like nothing in between, just plugged in. That's it.
Well, that's Angus Young. That's the sound of AC/DC. That's just overdriven Marshall amps.
Yeah, and I mean, sometimes I go, man, I like that mentality. You know, I like the freedom, the idea of just
why mess around?
Yeah, exactly. Just plug in, and that's another reason why what I like about this and just pushing air. You know, having that. You know, a real amp as opposed to a simulator, but like when you're using the, you know, plugins and stuff. But
it's a whole different feeling.
Yeah, but a lot of times when I'm recording, I don't know, there is something to be said for that simplicity, and like I'm not somebody who just takes plugins that were already there and just uses them. I sometimes, most of the time, I tweak them so they sound very similar to what I'm going to sound like anyway.
Yeah, because when you're recording digitally, you don't really need like the old days where you had the microphone a certain angle away from the speaker and so many feet away, because you can all simulate that now.
Yeah, that's true too. I notice I can like change mics, change cabs, move the mic.
Yeah.
I mean, it's artificial, but it's pretty good.
We're talking about Solitary Green Witch,
Yeah.
which is on your new album.
Yeah, and it's so funny. Oh yeah, that's it. So. Something like that, right?
Very melodic.
Yeah, I have to think about it because
it's got a spooky character. That's what I like.
Definitely, but what's so hilarious is you mentioned how kind of reminded you of Diary of a Madman, and I never really thought about it until we started rehearsing for these upcoming shows, and I wanted to play that song because it's like one of the latest videos, but we're not running tracks for this first show, like no backing tracks, it's just live, and I thought, wow, that's going to be kind of weird, so we got to come up with something. And then I was just joking around going, I should do like, how does that go? But anyway, I was like screwing around playing Diary of a Madman, and I'm going, I'll just play that in the middle instead. But I figured out that I won't. But it was just kind of funny that
Randy Rhoads, what a loss that was.
I know, he did more on those two albums than like to contribute to guitar, and I couldn't imagine. I don't know how Ozzy carried on the way he did. Like, no wonder he was like drinking so heavily. I mean, he was probably already partying, but the drinking and drugs probably went from partying to drowning.
Yeah.
You know, it's speculation, of course, but can you imagine where he would have gone musically? Because I mean, some people could say, well, maybe that was it. He wouldn't have improved, but it doesn't seem like because he was a real student of the music and a teacher.
He was actually saying to Ozzy, according to the book, he was saying to Ozzy that he wanted to get out of the rock business. He wanted to become, I don't know, a classical guitar player, but just he wanted to focus on playing guitar, not be the pop star, rock star.
Yeah, and I mean, like even somebody like Eddie, who did live not long enough, but a long life, and enough to keep contributing. He could have done Eruption and left it at that and still been a legend.